The scroll trembles in the boy's hands. 15 years old Titus has never seen his grandfather's handwriting look so deliberate, so heavy. Each letter pressed into the parchment like a confession carved in stone. The room smells of oil lamps and something else. Fear, maybe. Or regret. His grandfather is dead, executed yesterday in the arena. The same arena he built. Titus begins to read. To my grandson Titus, age 15. I am 68 years old. Tomorrow I will be condemned to die via mechanisms I designed 33 years ago. Before I face the beasts, you must know what your family built and what it cost. The words blur. Titus blinks, forces himself to continue. I was 35 years old when Emperor Titus summoned me to his palace. Not this Emperor Titus, the other one. The one they called merciful. The year was 80 in the Common Era. Rome had just unveiled its greatest monument, the Flavian Amphitheater. You know it as the Colosseum. I was a military engineer. I had built siege towers in Judea, bridges across rivers where armies drowned if the measurements were wrong. I understood loads and stresses. I understood how to make stone obey human will. What I did not understand was that some structures should never be built. The emperor sat in a room filled with marble, everywhere marble, white and cold and perfect. He told me the games needed mechanisms. The underground needed to come alive. Animals needed to rise from beneath the sand like monsters from myth. Water needed to flood the killing floor, so naval battles could be staged for the masses. Condemned prisoners needed to drop through trapdoors at precise intervals. He asked if I could design such systems. I said yes before he finished the question. The payment was 50,000 denarii, 30 years of military salary delivered in one commission. I had a pregnant wife, a 3-year-old daughter, a 1-year-old son. I had ambition. I had pride. I had every reason a man tells himself when he knows somewhere deep that he should refuse. I threw myself into the work. For 6 months I lived beneath the Colosseum, measuring, calculating, sketching. The hypogeum, they called it. The underworld, a maze of corridors and cages and mechanical rooms stretching beneath the sand. I designed elevator platforms that could lift 24 caged animals simultaneously. Counterweight systems using teams of slaves turning massive capstans. Trapdoors triggered by pin pulled at exact moments. I made the machine efficient, elegant even. Every gear had purpose. Every pulley reduced the force required. I was solving problems. That is what engineers do. We solve problems. We do not ask whether the problem should be solved in the first place. My assistant, Felix, once asked me how I could calculate the drop speed needed for a trap door. I showed him the mathematics: weight of the prisoner, friction of the mechanism, desired impact force. He went pale. I told him engineering is neutral. A blade does not judge who it cuts. A pulley does not judge what it lifts. He said nothing. I thought I had convinced him. I had convinced myself. Opening day arrived in the summer of 80. 100 days of games to celebrate the new arena. 50,000 Romans packed the stone seats. The roar when the doors opened sounded like the ocean, like every voice in the world screaming at once. I stood in my control station beneath the sand, a small room with levers and viewing slits. I could see the arena floor through gaps in the boards. I could hear everything. The first event was a venatio, an animal hunt. 40 lions against 100 condemned prisoners. The condemned wore no armor, carried no weapons. They were not there to fight. They were there to die in a specific way at a specific time. I pulled the first lever. A trap door opened. A lion erupted onto the sand. The crowd's roar doubled. I counted to 15. Pulled the second lever. Another lion. Another roar. I had choreographed this. The timing, the sequence, the visual rhythm of predators appearing from beneath the earth. 35 minutes later, 100 men were dead. My mechanisms had worked flawlessly. Not one jam, not one mistimed door. The sand rakers came out between acts and smoothed over the blood. Fresh sand scattered on top, yellow and clean, ready for the next performance. Emperor Titus summoned me to his box. In front of 50,000 people, he commended my genius. He placed a laurel on my head. He handed me a purse containing 10,000 additional denarii, Bonus for perfection. I walked home through streets filled with celebration. Strangers congratulated me. My name was on graffiti. Marcus Valerius, the engineer who made the Colosseum live. My wife Julia met me at the door. She saw the laurel, the purse. She embraced me. Our daughter Claudia, 3 years old, asked what I had built. I told her I built the greatest stage in the world. I believed it. She clapped her small hands. That night I could not sleep. I kept hearing the roar, not the crowd's roar, the other one. The sound 100 men make when 40 lions are released in timed intervals. It was not a roar, it was something else. Something that should not have a name. I told myself they were condemned. Criminals, enemies of Rome. I told myself judges had sentenced them. Emperors had approved it. I was just the engineer. I built the doors. I did not decide who fell through them. I told myself many things that night. The years passed. I became wealthy, chief engineer of the Colosseum. My mechanisms were copied in amphitheaters across the empire. I trained younger engineers. My son Marcus Jr. apprenticed under me at 16. Eager, talented, proud to continue his father's work. I attended the games because I had to. Engineers must monitor their systems. Watch for wear. Listen for problems. That is what I told myself, that I was there for maintenance. In the year 90, a decade after opening day, I brought my daughter Claudia to the games. She was 13, old enough I thought to understand Rome's power, to see what her father had built. The morning Venatio went well. Exotic animals from Africa, elephants, leopards, a rhinoceros that charged the arena wall and cracked the stone. Claudia watched with wide eyes. She was not afraid. She was Roman. This was her birthright. Then came noon, the Meridiani, the midday executions. While the crowd ate lunch and gossiped and placed bets on the afternoon gladiator matches, condemned prisoners were brought out. No costumes, no ceremony, just volume. 80 men in 90 minutes, thrown to starve beasts, forced to fight each other without armor until one remained standing. Then that one was killed too. I had seen this hundreds of times. It was efficient. It cleared the backlog of condemned criminals. It filled dead time in the schedule. It kept the crowd engaged between premium events. But Claudia had never seen it. A young man, maybe 20, was shoved onto the sand. Unarmed, a gate opened. 3 dogs starved for days were released. The man ran. He tried to climb the arena wall. His fingers scrabbled at stone. The dogs reached him. He screamed. Claudia grabbed my arm. "Papa, why is that man crying?" "He did something bad," I said. The automatic answer. "What did he do?" "I do not know." "Then how do you know he is bad?" I had no answer. The dogs finished their work. The man stopped screaming. My trap door, the one I had designed 10 years earlier, opened beneath his body. He dropped into the spoliarium, the body room. Workers would strip him of anything valuable. His corpse would be hauled away with the others. 80 men. One afternoon, Claudia would not let go of my arm. "Papa, you built the door he fell through. Does that make you bad?" I took her home. I did not answer. I could not answer. That night, I did something I had never done. I calculated. 20 years of games, approximately 300 events, average deaths per event. I used conservative numbers, lowball estimates. The mathematics were simple. 20,000 people had died via mechanisms I designed. 20,000. The number sat in my mind like a stone. I poured wine, drank it, poured more. My wife Julia asked if I was well. I said I was tired, just tired. The next morning I returned to work. I had contracts, obligations, employees, a family business that now supported 200 workers across Rome. I could not simply stop. What would happen to them? What would happen to my family? I told myself I was trapped. That made it easier. 3 weeks later, another mythological execution. A man dressed as Orpheus, the poet who could charm beasts with music. They placed him center stage with a lyre. Docile sheep wandered around him. The crowd recognized the myth. They laughed. They knew what was coming. I was in my control station, my hand on the lever that would release the bears. 4 bears starved, beaten, enraged. I had tested the gate mechanism that morning. Perfect function. The arena director gave the signal. I pulled the lever. The gate opened. The bears charged. The man in the Orpheus costume saw them coming. He looked toward my control station. He could not see me through the viewing slit, but he looked directly at where I was. Our eyes met for perhaps 2 seconds. In those 2 seconds, I saw him understand. Someone had designed this moment. Someone had engineered his death to happen in this specific theatrical way. Someone had done the mathematics to ensure the bears would reach him in exactly enough time for the crowd to feel suspense, but not boredom. That someone was me. The bears reached him. 40 seconds later, he was dead. The crowd applauded for 6 minutes. Longest applause of the day. My mechanism had enabled a perfect performance. I went home. I vomited in the garden. Julia found me. She held me while I shook. I could not tell her why. That was the year 90. I was 45 years old. I had been building death for 10 years. I had another 23 years ahead of me. But something had broken. I did not know it yet. But the man who had built those mechanisms with pride was dying. Something else was being born. The scroll ends the first section there. Titus looks up from the parchment. His hands are shaking. He has heard stories of his grandfather, the brilliant engineer, the man who built wonders. He has never heard this. He forces himself to keep reading. The second section begins. 5 years passed. The year was 95. I was 50 years old. Still chief engineer. Still attending every major event. Still maintaining the mechanisms I had built. Emperor Trajan had taken power. He wanted to surpass all previous games. He commissioned a naumachia, a naval battle staged inside the flooded Colosseum. 3,000 fighters, real ships, real weapons, real drowning. The engineering challenge was immense. I needed to flood 2 million gallons of water into the arena in under 4 hours. Create depth zones, some areas 4 feet deep for waiting combat, other areas 12 feet for actual naval maneuvering. Then drain it all in 3 hours so the arena could be used for gladiator fights that evening. I designed it. Of course I designed it. It was the most complex hydraulic system ever built. Aqueduct feeds, drainage channels, sluice gates operated by teams of slaves. I was proud of the technical achievement. I told myself that was separate from what the water would be used for. During the preparation, I was inspecting the holding cells beneath the arena. I needed to ensure the flood would not damage the underground structure. As I walked through the corridors, I heard voices, women's voices. I turned a corner. 50 female gladiators were preparing for the naumachia. There would be a women's division, a novelty act. 50 women on 2 small ships fighting while the main naval battle raged around them. One of the women looked at me. She was young, maybe 25. Scars on her arms, eyes that had seen too much. "Are you the engineer?" she asked. "Yes. The water you are flooding. How deep it varies. 4 feet in the shallows, 12 feet in the deep zones." She nodded slowly. "I can swim. Most of the others cannot. In armor, they will drown." I opened my mouth, closed it. "That is not my concern," I finally said. Her eyes held mine. "No, you just designed the water." She turned away. I stood there. Workers moved past me. I was in the way. I walked back to my station. On execution day, I monitored the flood from my control room. Everything functioned perfectly. Water filled in 3 hours, 52 minutes, 8 minutes ahead of schedule. The ships were launched. 3,000 fighters, weapons, and hand armor, strapped tight. The women's ships were positioned near the deep zone. I could see them from my viewing slit. I told myself to look away. I could not. The battle began. Ships rammed, oars splintered, men fought, men died, and the women fought too. 50 women with swords and shields on 2 small vessels. The first ship capsized 15 minutes into the battle. 25 women went into the water, in armor, 12 feet deep. I watched them drown. I could have looked away. I did not. I made myself watch. One woman, maybe 18 years old, clawed at the water. Her armor pulled her down. She surfaced once. Twice, her hand reached up, grasping at air, at life. Then she went under. She did not surface again. 47 women drowned that day, in water I had engineered, at depths I had specified, using flood rates I had calculated. That night I could not sleep. I went to my workshop. I did something I had never done. I calculated my personal toll. 20 years, 300 events, Average deaths. I used precise numbers this time. 22,000 people had died via mechanisms I had designed, built, or maintained. 22,000. I was not a judge. I was not an executioner. I was an engineer. But 22,000 people were dead because I had made their deaths possible. Efficient. Theatrical. My son Marcus Jr. found me in the workshop before dawn. He was 16, learning the trade, excited about the naumachia. Father, the mechanisms were perfect. The emperor praised our family. I heard he wants to commission another naumachia next year. Even bigger. He was glowing, proud, the way I had been at his age. I looked at my son. I saw myself 20 years earlier. Before the doubt, before the wait. I saw him standing at the beginning of a path that would destroy him the way it had destroyed me. Titus, I said, using his formal name. Do you know what we built yesterday? Entertainment for Rome, he said. Employment for thousands. You taught me this, Father. Engineering serves the city. I could not speak. I had taught him well. Too well. He left for morning training. I sat in the workshop. Dawn light came through the window. I made a decision. I could not stop building, but I could start breaking. Over the next 8 years, I sabotaged my own mechanisms. Carefully, precisely. Sabotage is engineering in reverse. You build in failure. You design flaws that look like accidents. I built delays into trapdoor mechanisms. 30 seconds instead of 3. In that time, some prisoners escaped the arena floor. Most were recaptured. Some made it into the tunnels. A few, maybe 2 or 3, escaped into Rome entirely. I know because the guards never found them. I loosened bolts on cage gates. Not enough to be obvious. Just enough that under stress, the gate might jam. Might give an animal an extra minute to calm. Might make a handler rethink releasing it. I designed water seals that leaked. Slowly. So naumachia floods took longer. Gave fighters more time to prepare. Sometimes that extra time meant survival. Over 8 years, I estimate, I saved 100 lives. Maybe 150. Against 22,000 dead, 150 seems like nothing. But those were 150 people who went home, who saw another sunrise, because I built failure instead of perfection. The risk was constant. Every inspection might catch me. Every test might reveal the sabotage. Treason against imperial property meant execution. Not just mine, my family's, my workers, everyone connected to me. In the year 103, my senior engineer, Felix, inspected one of my trapdoor mechanisms. He was thorough, meticulous. He found a pattern of loosened bolts, too precise to be accidental. He called me to the mechanism. We stood alone in the underground. He pointed to the bolts. This is intentional, he said. You are sabotaging imperial property. I said nothing. There was nothing to say. Felix looked at me for a long moment. Then he reached into his tool bag. He pulled out a wrench. He loosened 2 more bolts. Structural fatigue, he said. I will note it in my report. He walked away. I stood there. I was not alone. I had never been alone. Over the following months, I learned there were others. A beast handler who reduced starvation schedules for animals. They were still aggressive, but less desperate, less likely to kill instantly. One extra handler who sometimes left cage keys accessible. Accidents, he called them. A record keeper who sent anonymous warnings to families of condemned prisoners, giving them time to say goodbye. We never organized, never met, never spoke of it, but we knew, and together we saved perhaps 200 lives over 5 years. Still, 3,000 died annually in the games. Our resistance was a drop in an ocean of blood. In the year 105, I was inspecting arena mechanisms. I was 60 years old. My hair had gone gray. My hands shook sometimes. Not from age, from weight. A voice behind me. Are you the engineer? I turned. The woman from the naumachia, 10 years older, scars on scars now, still alive. I remember you, she said. The flood, 20 years ago. You said drowning was not your concern. I was wrong, I said. I was wrong about many things. She studied me. My name is Lucia. I have been keeping records. Records, names, dates, methods for 12 years now. 1,200 people. I write them down. I remember them. Why? Because if no one remembers them, they are just numbers, like your engineering calculations. She was right. I had reduced 22,000 people to a number. A tally in my private accounting. I have saved 4,200 denarii, she said, 5,800 short of freedom. I will die before I earn it. What do you need my scrolls? If I die, they will be lost. I need them preserved. I know people, I said. Christians, they keep martyr records, names of those killed for their faith. Can you get the scrolls to them? She looked at me, really looked, searching for something. Trust maybe. I will make copies, she said. It will take 3 months. You will hide them. If I survive to freedom, I deliver them myself. If I die, you take them to Carthage, to Bishop Optatus. He preserves records. I will do it. She walked away, then stopped, turned back. How many have you saved, she asked. Perhaps 100, 150. Against how many dead? 22,000. She nodded. 150 is more than zero. For the first time in 15 years, I felt something other than guilt. Not pride, not redemption. Something smaller. Hope, maybe. That the witnessing mattered. That memory was a form of resistance. Lucia brought me the scrolls 3 months later. Copies of 12 years of documentation, written in tiny script on parchment she had stolen and scraped and reused. 1,193 names, dates, methods of death. I hid them in my workshop. Behind a false wall I built specifically for this, my greatest engineering achievement. Not elevators or flood systems. A hiding place for truth. I made a pact with myself. If I survived, I would add to those scrolls. I would document. I would witness. I could not stop the machine, but I could preserve what it destroyed. The scroll's second section ends. Titus sets it down. His grandfather, the man he thought he knew. He picks up the final section. His hands are steadier now. Or maybe he is just numb. The year was 110. I was 65 years old, still chief engineer, still maintaining mechanisms, still sabotaging when I could. Emperor Trajan wanted escalation. Every year had to surpass the last. Larger naumachia, more exotic animals, more elaborate mythological executions. The crowd's appetite was bottomless. The more they saw, the more they needed. My son Marcus Jr. was 31, chief assistant engineer. He had learned everything I taught him, the mathematics, the precision, the pride in craft. He was better than I had been at his age, more innovative, more efficient. He had a son, my grandson, your father Titus. You were 11 years old in the year 110, old enough to start learning the family trade. Marcus Jr. brought you to the workshop, showed you pulleys and levers, taught you load calculations. You were bright, quick, enthusiastic. You wanted to be like your father, like your grandfather. I watched you learn. I saw the path stretching ahead. 3 generations of builders, 3 generations feeding the machine. I could not let it continue. One evening I took you aside, just the two of us. I asked you a question. Do you know what these mechanisms do? They make the games work, you said. Grandfather. Father says I will design my own mechanism someday. What do the games do? You frowned, confused by the question. They entertain Rome. They honor the dead. They show the emperor's power. I had taught my son those words. He had taught you. The justifications passed down like recipes. Come with me, I said. I brought you to the Colosseum. Not to my workshop, to the arena itself. It was evening. The day's games had ended. Workers were cleaning the sand, raking it smooth for tomorrow. The sand was dark in places, wet, not with water. I made you look at it. Blood, I said, from 80 men who died at noon. While people ate lunch, you were 11, you looked at the sand, then at me. You did not understand what I wanted you to see. Those mechanisms you want to design, I said. They help kill people, efficiently, theatrically. That is what we build, not entertainment. Death. You step back. Father says it is honorable work. I know. I taught him to say that. I took you home. Your father was angry. You were too young for such things, he said. I was disturbing you, filling your head with doubt. He was right. You were too young. But I was running out of time. 2 years later, 112, I was 67, dying. My lungs were failing. Decades of breathing stone dust and torch smoke in underground workshops. I had perhaps 2 years left, maybe less. Emperor Trajan announced a festival, his birthday celebration, 10 days of games, the grandest ever staged. One of the events was unprecedented, a youth gladiator exhibition, boys aged 10 to 14, armed with dulled weapons, fighting for honor, not death, a spectacle of Rome's future warriors. Your father, Marcus Jr., received the commission. Design mechanisms for the youth exhibition, child-sized armor, modified weapons, platforms for smaller combatants. He was excited. An honor to design for the emperor's birthday. He told you about it. You would attend. Watch the boys fight. See what Roman youth could achieve. Then the selection list came. 50 boys, chosen from families across Rome. A lottery, a great honor to be selected. Your name was on the list. Titus, age 13, selected for the youth exhibition. Your father was overjoyed, his son, fighting before the emperor, showcasing the family's courage. He began training you immediately. Sword work, shield drills, footwork. I watched from my workshop. I said nothing for 3 days. Then I went to the imperial representative. Take me instead, I said. The representative laughed. You are 67 and dying. You would last 30 seconds. No entertainment value? Then I refuse to maintain the mechanisms. I will not enable this. He stopped laughing. You understand what you are saying. Refusal of imperial commission is treason. I understand. Then you understand the consequences. Your grandson fights, and you watch from the engineer's box you built. Or you comply. Choose. I left. I went to my workshop. I locked the door. I had a plan. I had been developing it for months. Complete sabotage. Not small delays. Total destruction. The Colosseum's flood system. The most complex mechanism in the structure. If I collapsed it during a naumachia, the entire underground would flood. Uncontrolled. Everyone in the arena would die. Fighters, animals, workers, crowd members in lower sections, perhaps 3,000 dead in minutes. But the arena would be destroyed, unusable for years, maybe forever. No more games, no more children selected for exhibition, no more 22,000 dead per decade. I could end it. The cost was 3,000 lives. And my soul. I spent 2 days designing the sabotage, precisely which support to weaken, which sluice gate to jam open, the mathematics of catastrophic failure. On the third day, someone knocked on my workshop door. It was Lucia, now 42 years old. She had never achieved freedom. She had been crippled in a fight 5 years earlier, walked with a limp, could no longer compete, lived in poverty, but alive. I know what you are planning, she said. How the Christian network. We hear things. You are going to collapse the flood system. Yes, you will kill 3,000 people to stop it forever. She sat down uninvited. Her leg clearly pained her. She looked at the designs I had spread across my workbench. You will kill to stop killing, she said. You have become what you built. I said nothing. She was right. Give me the scroll, she said. All of them, yours and mine. Let me take them to Carthage. That does not stop the games, no. But it preserves the witness. Someday when Rome falls, someone will read them. Someone will know what happened here. The names, the methods, the truth. Truth does not save lives. Neither does mass murder disguised as sabotage. We sat in silence. Outside, I could hear construction, workers building the youth exhibition platforms. My son, Marcus Jr., supervising. My grandson practicing sword forms. If I do not destroy the arena, my grandson fights, I said. If you destroy it, 3,000 die, including your grandson. He will be in the crowd. I had not thought of that. In my calculations, I had forgotten the crowd. I had become what I despised, reducing people to numbers. Acceptable losses. There is another way, Lucia said. Testify. Write everything, every mechanism, every death, every name you know. Add it to my scrolls. We take them to Carthage together. We preserve the witness. That is the resistance. That does not stop the games, no. But it stops the forgetting, and someday that will matter. I looked at my sabotage plans. Perfect engineering, elegant failure, 3,000 dead. I burned the plans. For 3 months I wrote. Everything. 33 years of engineering. Every mechanism. Every innovation. Every small sabotage. 22,000 deaths. 150 saved. Names I remembered. Dates I had recorded, I added it to Lucia's scrolls. Combined, we had 3,800 names. 1,200 from Lucia's 12 years. 2,600 from my 33. Not everyone. Not even close. But 3,800 souls who would not be forgotten. In the year 113, Lucia and I traveled to Carthage. 8 days by ship. We barely spoke. What was there to say? Bishop Optatus met us in an underground church. Christians still worshipped in secret, still died in arenas. He was old, maybe 70, scars on his wrists where chains had been. We gave him the scrolls. These are records, I said. Names, methods, witnesses. He unrolled one, read. His hands began to shake. 3,800 names, he whispered. We preserve martyr records, he said. Copy them. Distribute them to churches across the empire. If Rome falls, these survive. I built the machine that killed your people, I said. I have no right to ask forgiveness. He looked at me, truly looked. You also sabotaged it. You witnessed. You preserved names. That is repentance. Is it enough? That is not for me to judge. But you have given us truth. The powerful fear truth more than swords. We stayed in Carthage 2 days, then returned to Rome. Both of us knew what awaited. I had abandoned my post, traveled without permission, violated my commission. The charges were waiting when I arrived. Treason, sabotage, dereliction of duty. They had investigated, finally, deeply. They found evidence of years of intentional flaws, loosened bolts, delayed mechanisms, structural failures too precise to be accidents. The sentence was announced publicly. Damnatio ad bestias, condemned to the beasts, execution in the arena. The irony was not lost on anyone. The engineer who built the mechanisms would die by them. My son Marcus Jr. visited me in my cell the night before execution. He was shaking, furious, devastated. Why, he asked. Why betray everything we built? Because what we built was betrayal, I said. Of everything human. You saved 150 lives. You killed 22,000. I know. Then what was the point? I also witnessed 3,800. I made sure they were remembered. That is not nothing. He left. He could not forgive me. I understood. The next day they brought me to the arena. I was 68 years old, dying already from lung disease. I could barely breathe, but I could still stand. They gave me a choice. Run. Try to escape. Give the crowd a show. I refused. I stood center arena. Faced the crowd, 50,000 Romans, in seats I had helped design. Watching through sight lines I had calculated. Waiting for spectacle my mechanisms would provide. I began to speak, loud as my failing lungs allowed. I built this machine. I am guilty. But I also testify. Their names were Tiberius of Gaul, executed year 80, Orpheus Performance, Marcella of Thrace, drowned year 95, Naumachia, Justina of Egypt, executed year 97, wild beasts. I recited names from memory. I had memorized 200. I got through 47. Then they released the lions. I did not run. I faced them, still reciting names. The 48th name died on my lips. Then I died. It took 40 seconds. I know because I counted. The scroll ends there, but there is a final page. Different handwriting. Lucia's. Marcus Valerius died reciting names in the arena he built. His son Marcus Jr. continued his sabotage. More aggressive, reckless. He was caught the following year, executed 115. Titus was 16. He watched his father die. I was freed when Trajan died in 117. New emperor, new policies. I lived in poverty, crippled, but alive. I became keeper of the records. I added Marcus's name, his son's name. I updated the scrolls. 4,200 names by the time I finished. In the year 128, I was 58, dying of infection. Titus came to see me. He was 29. He had refused all engineering commissions, refused to build for the games. Instead, he had learned to copy scrolls. He had spent 13 years reproducing the records, distributing them to churches across the empire, 4,200 names, in a dozen cities, dozens of copies. He sat with me while I died. He asked me a question. Was it worth it, your grandfather's sacrifice? My years copying, the resistance. I do not know, I said. But it was right. I died that night. Titus took the final scroll, added my name. Lucia, gladiatrix, keeper of records. Witness. The scrolls survived, copied and recopied, hidden and preserved. When Rome fell in 476, the scrolls were already in a dozen church archives. In the year 1490, a monk in Carthage discovered a complete set. He cataloged them. Codex Valerius Lucia, 4,200 names. Methods, dates, witnesses. The scrolls are in the Vatican archives now. You can see them if you know where to look. Titus sets down the scroll, his grandfather's confession, his great-great-grandmother Lucia's addendum. 4,200 names. He is 15 years old. His grandfather is dead. His father will die next year. He knows this somehow, knows the path ahead. He has a choice. Continue the family trade, engineering, building, serving Rome, or refuse and face the consequences. He stands, walks to his grandfather's workshop, opens the hidden panel behind the workbench. Inside are the original scrolls, 4,200 names. He picks them up, holds them, feels their weight. Then he begins to copy, by hand, letter by letter, name by name. It will take him 13 years. He knows this. 13 years of copying. Distributing, preserving. But his grandfather witnessed. His father sabotaged. He will preserve. 3 generations. 3 forms of resistance. Against a machine built to make cruelty normal. The Colosseum operated for 350 years after Marcus's death. An estimated 400,000 people died in its arena. 4,200 names were preserved. 1%. Not even. But 1% is more than zero, and sometimes witness is all we can offer. The scrolls sit in the Vatican's secret archives. Codex Valerius Lucia. Any scholar can request to see them. Most do not. They gather dust in climate-controlled darkness. But they exist. 4,200 names. People who died in ways designed to entertain. People who would have been forgotten completely. People who now have witness. Marcus Valerius saved approximately 150 lives through sabotage. He killed 22,000 through his mechanisms. He witnessed 3,800. His son, Marcus Jr., saved perhaps 40 more, died at 36. His grandson, Titus, distributed the records. 4,200 names in churches across a dying empire. The math is simple. 150 saved, 22,000 killed, 4,200 witnessed. Which number matters most, Marcus thought, the witnessing, the preservation, the refusal to let them become numbers. That is what he died believing. Was he right? I do not know. I'm just telling you what happened, what one engineer did when he finally understood what he had built, what it cost him to witness, what it cost his son to continue, what it cost his grandson to preserve. The Colosseum still stands. Tourists visit, take photos, marvel at the engineering, the ingenuity, the Roman achievement. Very few ask about the mechanisms underneath, the trap doors, the flood systems, the elevator platforms that made the spectacle possible. Very few ask about the engineer who built them, then tried to break them, then died testifying against them. But now you know. Marcus Valerius, engineer, saboteur, witness. He was guilty. He was also brave. Both can be true. Make of that what you will.